seat of her pants.
Calm down, Cal. It'll be okay. It's all good.
Okay, I want to share this on Facebook. How do I do that?
Yeah, if you share it on Facebook, let me know, and then I'll share it on mine.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to do that. I'm an idiot when it comes to tech.
Oh, I think that makes for a bunch of us.
Once he posts it
I'm really bad
on the Liberty News.
We gotta go silent. We gotta go silent. Okay.
Oh, Polly, it's for your sake alone. I left my dear old father, my country, and my home. I left my dear old mother to weep and to mourn. I am a rebel soldier and far from my home. It's grape shot and musket and the cannon lumber loud. There's many a mangled body, the blanket for their shroud. There's many a mangled body left on the fields alone. I am a rebel soldier and far from my home.
Okay, folks, this is James White from Critical Disclosure Radio, and we're trying to pull something off here that we've never done before. We've got people here in the studio, and we've got people on remote here with Zoom. There's some big information that got dropped to me last night that I wanted to come on here and share with everyone. I have Dave vonKleist with me. You can see sort of in the background. I'm going to have everybody go around and introduce themselves for a minute. In a minute, Kelly's with us. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of the information I received last night, which corroborates with some of their information. Jason Q's on with us as well. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pop over to this screen and remove this here and pop these fine folks here into the screen here. Give me a quick second and I'll have this done. We're just scrambling to get this all done here right at the very last minute. So there we go. We see you there, Kelly, on the screen. If you can go ahead and say hello and introduce yourself, we will get right down to business here in just a minute. Kelly, over to you.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and I'm just a researcher.
Okay.
She's much more.
Sure. Okay, and we have Dave vonKleist. Dave, go ahead and say hi there. People can see in the background. Go ahead and say hey.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave vonKleist. For those of you who don't know me, just take a couple of minutes. You can do a search, just Dave Von. As I got a long piece of political toilet paper stuck to my shoe, and it's nice to be back in the saddle again.
And go ahead. There we go, right there. Okay, and we're going to get excellent. That'll work just fine. Excellent. There we go. Okay, and Jason, go ahead and introduce yourself if you like.
My name is Jason Q Janiszewski, and just another anon researcher. Just
okay,
want to
excellent.
Find the truth and spread it.
Excellent. So I'm going to try to do is I can't pull all you guys over here. Let me see here. I think. I can see on my screen, but I don't think the folks can see you. So let's pull you all over here and see if we can bring that up. There we go. Okay, so mine is going to be, you're going to see mine twice, but that's all right. Unless I just minimize this. And again, folks, this is something that we haven't really done before here on the show. This is kind of new. So just bear with us here while we're trying to get this worked out. I think we're almost going. Okay, so everybody, thanks so much for joining us here today. I wanted to have all of you folks here because I get some information drops last night, and I called you guys, and you sort of corroborated what I had heard. So I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to tell you what I have, and then we have some other stuff here that I'm going to try to pull up to put on the screen to sort of further corroborate what we discovered. But essentially, I talked to a contact that I have last night I met with President Trump twice. He has 2 signed hats to prove it. He is on part of the President Trump's team to take out pedophiles. There really is a pedophile team. People claim that there's not, but there is. I spoke to him last night, and what he tells me is the following. The Kamala Harris, and we're going to jump through here. There's a lot of stuff that he said, and the guests are going to comment on it as well. But essentially what it comes down to, America Incorporated, that we know, the corporation of America is bankrupt. It's going away. That's why Trump is going to be the last president of the United States of America, because there isn't going to be, as you know it, the United States of America. They're bankrupt. The deal's already been done, I've been told numerous times. What's going to happen is on the 20th, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are going to be inaugurated. They're going to be immediately arrested, and the military is going to arrest them. We have, starting November 2nd, the United States went into bankruptcy. 120 days later, which is about March 4th, they're going to have another election. And the country that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are going to briefly inherit as president and vice president is essentially in receivership. It's in bankruptcy, and it'll be insolvent. There's much more to go with that, but I just wanted to initially with that, I wanted to bring the guest on here. Is that jive with, and we're going to increase this, we're going to go further into this, of course, but Kelly, let's go to you first. Is that something you've heard as well? Is that what you're hearing also?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. A disillusion of exactly what has transpired since, 1800s in regards to the United States of America, and the corporation that has become is defunct, and it is going away. And we are going back to a constitutional republic.
Correct. Can everybody, I don't know if everybody can hear her. Can hear her okay? Let me give me a 5x5 in the chat room. Can we hear Kelly okay? Okay, I think we're okay with that, Kelly. David, what's your thoughts on that? Dave vonKleist.
Well, there's a lot of, shall we say, animosity, a lot of fear, a lot of apprehension right now across the entire country. Indeed, the whole world is watching what's going on, and it's with bated breath. A lot of people feel disheartened. They're scared. They're sad. But what's happening right now is going to give us all reason to open up our eyes and smile again, because I don't see that it can't happen. I just don't. I mean, I've been very skeptical in the past, as are many of the people who are out there right now that have been following all the the bouncing balls of corruption for the past several decades. But the actual the concept of it having it all come to an end is sort of like, it sounds like it's too good to be true, but this time I think it is.
Hey, Jason, what's your thoughts on that? Are you hearing some similar stuff, Jason? When I talked to David, my friend David last night, he talked about the Jubilee. He talked about the fact that if anybody wants to cover the birth certificate trust, when you're born and you get a birth certificate issued to you, they monetize that. The establishment monetizes your birth certificate, and they actually trade you like commodities. I've heard they're also going to open up that the trust, the birth certificate trust, and we're going to be going from a land of scarcity to a land of abundance. Any thought on that, Jason?
I haven't heard anything about it. This is the first time I've heard about it, but I am 100% on board with it. After all of you have heard it, because I wanted to go either way with this, but when you said March 3rd, in March 3rd, 1933, that's when the Mount Rushmore was dedicated. So you have the quad threes right there. I mean, that's almost perfect, because plus it's 120 days since the signing of the 1776
Mission.
Yeah, the 1776 mission, and right before the election. So I'm all board with that.
Go ahead, Kelly.
To touch on what the 1776 Commission is it's essentially re-educating the populace on true facts of true history, because we've been lied to for so many years about what exactly has transpired. And just reading in the first paragraph of the purpose of the 1776 Commission, the American founding envisioned a political order in harmony with the design of the laws of nature and of nature's God, seeing the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as embodied in and sanctioned by natural law and its traditions.
Right, folks. What we're essentially is happening here is we're going back to natural law. We're going back to natural law. You've heard the saying, when the people fear the government, it's tyranny, and when the government fears the people, it's liberty. We're moving back to that second one. We're moving back where the government fears the people, which is liberty, which is what it should be, is how it should be, and how it was intended to be. However, we've been usurped by the establishment for many, many years now, and our labor has been used to enrich them and their cronies worldwide. That's all coming to an end. I was told 4 times last night in my conversation that the deal has already been done. That's why Trump came back from Mar-a-Lago early on the 26th to sign the deal. Now, he also told me what's something that people are going to have a hard time believing, but he also told me that the person that's the real hero in all this is William Barr. William Barr is the one that wrote all this. He said when he met William Barr, he looked him in his eye. William Barr shook his hand and said, there's two things I'm going to do before I leave. I'm going to end the American Bar Association, and I'm going to go back to common law. When he got that thing all written, he retired. Trump flew back in from Mar-a-Lago and signed it on the 26th. 120 days started from then, which brings us about April 25th. We're going to have a new republic by April 25th. That's the word that I'm getting. Now, I've also cross-referenced this with Anna Von Reitz, who's been on my show numerous times. If you go on Anna Von Reitz's Facebook pages and see what she wrote, it's almost, I found it after I talked to David last night. It says almost the same thing. Dave vonKleist, this is big information. You've been involved in this for many years. You sat in a meeting, I don't know how many years ago, with White Hats. They talked about the new coming, the new America that they were working on. It sounds like we may be on the cusp of that happening.
Well, it's funny you should bring that up. That was something that I'd forgotten about for many, many years. Shortly after Joyce and I was married to Joyce Riley for 12 and a half years, and Joyce and I both testified before the Presidential Commission on Gulf War Syndrome. And I must say, we tore them a new one. As a matter of fact, Joyce turned over the remainder of her time to me so I could play a song that I'd written for the Gulf War vets, and it was the only testimony that was deleted from the record. Apparently, there were some good people that were in attendance at this commission meeting, and Joyce got a phone call a couple of weeks afterwards, and we were both invited to sit in on a meeting, and it was of high-level military and intel people. And I'm fledgling. I just was getting started in this whole thing. I mean, I'm just a musician. I've been a musician all my life. I do politically incorrect music, but I wasn't ready for what I was about to hear. But basically, what it was, and I'll make it real short. They just basically had a synopsis of what had happened over the past century, that the organized crime families, the bankers, and the industrialists had formed a pact to basically create a coup and take over the United States. Eisenhower warned us about it, about the military-industrial complex. Kennedy tried to warn us about it. We all know what happened. And that was the official takeover. That was when the coup was completed. Now, these guys at this meeting, they said, look, it took them decades to get their ducks in a row. This doesn't happen overnight. They had to be relentless. They had to be patient. They had to be stealth. They had to be all of these things, diabolical, et cetera, to pull this off. And they did. For us to be able to take it back, we have to be just as relentless, just as patient, just as stealth, and just as diabolical. And it's not going to happen in a month or even, or a year or even a decade. It's going to take a couple of decades. But rest assured, we will take our country back because we are the good guys. We are wearing the white hats. Now, that was in 96. That didn't register in my head until the past couple of years when all of this stuff started coming about Epstein and Weinstein and Ghislaine and the pedophilia thing, and how the white hats were basically going after the pedophilia rings, the sex trafficking rings, the satanic worshiping rings. And this is all stuff that I was told about by Ted Gunderson. We came together right after the Oklahoma City bombing. And Ted and I spent a lot of time together going over some of the stuff that, like I said, it wasn't just the institutionalization, but the industrialization of sex trafficking and the child pedophilia networks, actually breeding children specifically for sex and for satanic rituals. Now, this sounds too horrible to believe. And when I tried to share it with people, they say, Dave, you're crazy, you're nuts, you're this, you're that. But, I was already getting all of that stuff from the 9/11 stuff. The bottom line here, and I don't want to take too much time, there's too much important information we need to get to, is that I didn't put the puzzle pieces together until, like I said, I started putting them together a couple of years ago and said, oh my God, did I actually sit in a meeting with these guys back in 96? And all of a sudden the bulb went off. And then I heard an interview on the Hagman Report with Cody Snodgrass. Jason Q, you've heard of, you know about Cody, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, he was touching on all the stuff and mentioning people's names that I hadn't heard in decades. And that exploded in my head, and I realized that this is real. This is really happening. There are white hats, good guys, that are going after this huge, global, powerful cabal. It's not just about the United States. Some people say, oh, you support Trump. You're I was going to say a bad word. But it's not about Trump. It's about the white hats. It's about the effort that's being made to take back our sovereignty and our freedom from this cabal that took it away from us 60-odd years ago. So please, all of you folks out there that think, okay, well, this is all about supporting Trump. It's not about that. Trump is being he's a figurehead. He was put there for the specific reason that he wasn't entrenched with the cabal. Yeah, he rubbed elbows with him. He knows, he did some nasty stuff, but he's not part of that team. And that's why they put him in there. They used the same technology that the bad actors have been using to flip elections and put Obama in and put all these other people in that are just absolute scum. The tables were turned. That's how Trump got in. Anyway, I won't spend any more time on that. But this white hat thing is for real, and what's going
Jason,
on here
let me. I'm going to
considered.
pop this up, Jason. Let me pop this up here. I think this will come up when I hit this right here. It won't, but let me get this document up here really quick, folks. I want to show you this here. This is something that corroborates everything that we're talking about here, and I want to specifically highlight this part right here. Then, Jason, I want to get your comment on it. You see right here, it says it right here. President Trump won't get a second term because this was his last recorded term of a president who served in the American corporation. He dismantled the Banking Act of 1871 from England. We are going back to a republic, and Trump will be the first president of the new republic with the Constitution fully intact, which includes a start date of the new president of March 4th. This was the original start date of the new president from 1776 until it was changed in 1933 under FDR. Jason Q, what do you say about that?
Well, because I'm a knowledge and a numbers junkie. So when you said 3-4, that pretty much piqued my interest because 3-4-21, that's 4 sevens. That's a 28. When you add it all together, that is a 7-7-7-7. And President Trump always goes by the sevens, always. Now, having in mind with the whole white hat operation, there were even more people involved with the White Knights, with the white hat operation that happened in 1990 when they did a complete audit of the Federal Reserve and the IRS, and they found $800 trillion in a Puerto Rican trust that was labeled cabal. And one of those persons happened to be Rear Admiral Edward Barrett. And that happens to be Edward Snowden's grandfather. So Edward Snowden in this is huge. And why he's in Russia for a reason. And he's in Russia with a bunch of other people that have technically been, they said that they've been offed or suicided, but their job is to bring just Sarah online to help the other 204 countries and territories. So this is a very big operation, and they've had to do this all under stealth. So I am completely on board with what you're saying. I 1000% agree.
All right, so I'm going to read this here. This is from Anna Von Reitz, and if you haven't followed Anna Von Reitz, you can find her, I think, on Facebook. This is directly from her Facebook post. Now, I saw this post from her. Anna's been on my show numerous times talking about this very thing, about the new republic and what's coming. You can certainly, I said, you can search her down on Facebook. But I'm going to put up what she just posted here a little bit earlier, and it's not exactly what my guy said, but pretty much sums it up in her way. I don't know if you can see this very well, but it says we are returning to the realm of public law and public courts. This is all the municipal corporations formed under the conditions of usurpation, fraud, and deceit are forfeit. All the municipal citizens' obligations contractually conferred upon us without our knowledge and consent will be null and void. All the patents issued for us by the municipal government will be ours to uphold or dispose of. Basically, we've been under, Kelly, I'm going to have you comment on this. We've been under a municipal, and I've covered this on my show with Ron Gibson 24 times. We've been under corporate law and we've been under administrative law for a long, long time now. When we talk about going back to common law, we're going to remove that albatross upon us, which is known as the corporate structure that does nothing but suck the lifeblood out of us. Tax us, fine us, permit us, all that stuff. All that's going away. It's been that way for a long time. Kelly, tell us about that.
Well, Oh man, I could go so deep on this one. Yeah, essentially, when you look at some different kinds of aspects of looking at it from a bigger picture, they have been harvesting our energy, and we're also paying for it at the same time when you're a part of the tax system part. And they have been using us in so many different fashions in order to, of course, acquire their own greed section. So two different things I wanted to touch on, one that Dave touched on, and then also one that you guys just touched on. So when we start talking about the human trafficking and those rights, if you have any question about where that's coming from as far as Trump's commitment to it, there is an executive order that was signed December 21st of 2017 that is for the executive order of blocking the property of persons involved in serious human rights abuse or corruption. This includes all crimes against humanity and all the things that they've been doing against the children. So if you want some confirmation that that truly exists and that that is his mission, he has said over and over and over, he is going to eradicate human trafficking and the pedophilia and the sex trafficking. He's going to eradicate it from this planet. That is his mission. This is about the kids. This is about making sure that going forward, no human suffers in the fashion that we have suffered.
And in that vein, also what I was told, and I remember these things as I go along, he also said there's going to be 800,000 people arrested. President Trump is going to clear out the jails. He's going to release 1.2 million prisoners that are there for nonviolent crimes, for process crimes, for stuff that's not violent. They're not going to let violent people out. But 1.2 million. He's already started doing some of that. If you look what Trump has been doing, he's already been reducing sentences of people in prison that don't have violent crimes. So he's been priming. He's getting people primed for this. 800,000 arrests. All these people that have been trying to commit fraud. Now, I was told by him that the reason that he had to have all three branches of the government proven to be incompetent. We have the legislative branch, as we can tell, that happens daily. They had to put those cases in front of the Supreme Court. He said they put the minimal amount of evidence out there just to get before the Supreme Court, knowing that it would fail. And then when president, that's the judicial branch. And then when Pence didn't do his job here a couple of days ago, that was corruption in the executive branch. So he's got corruption in all three branches of government: the executive, the judicial, and the legislative. With that in mind, that is going to be one of the foundations of moving into this new republic, where these people they're only going to have power inside Washington D.C. Washington D.C. is going to essentially be like the Vatican. They're going to have power, but it's only going to be in that 10 square mile radius like it should be. Dave vonKleist, what do you say?
Absolutely. Just got to read your Constitution. Article 1, Section 8, paragraph, I think it's 17, that Congress shall have the power to exercise or execute all legislation. I can't quote it verbatim, but it's basically saying that they only have authority over 10 square miles. And that's the way it ought to be. Federal law is not, it should not be honored in the states. I mean, why do we have a state constitution, state borders, state police, state legislatures? Why does federal law supersede? It doesn't. It never was supposed to. But we didn't know that. If you don't know your rights, you don't have any. So if we go back to the way it was supposed to be, then their jurisdiction is in that 10 square mile area, and I believe on the U.S. territories, U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, etc.
Jason, what kind of stuff? I know you've been digging into some of this stuff as well. I know you're a dogged researcher. Well, all this rings true to you. Yes, all this rings true to you. And what can you add to this? I know you've been another avenue that you've been researching. I think Kelly was telling me. Go ahead, school us here, Jason. Let us know what you got going on there.
Well, I've been researching, we're talking from 50,000 years ago to the present. We have everything. We have over 200,000 not documents, but pages of documents, offline, all printed, all filed, because they told us to keep everything offline.
Yeah.
So as long as we have one base like library for all of us, because this isn't just me. This is all of us. This is all of us collectively putting it together. I'm just a secretary and just helping put it together. I'm just a cog in the machine. And it's persons like you, all of you, that actually help me learn and give me the knowledge and put the pieces together, and then we add to it. And honestly, I can't thank all of you enough. I can't thank all the Patriots enough. I can't thank the whole Q group enough, everybody enough, that they have given us an insight of what really happened to this country. You know, we almost lost our republic.
So close.
And and the thing is that once you understand, you know, like even back when I was in school, back in 93, 94, when I graduated, we didn't learn anything about the Constitution. And that's scary. You know, back in the 50s, 60s, they taught civics. More.
We've
Because they squared away.
Wyman, we
They
also
wanted-
have the quantum banking systems in place, I've been told. We've got the quantum voting
Yes.
system in place.
Blockchain.
It's all in place, ready to go. There's going to be no more voter fraud, none of these shenanigans. It's all going to be done quantum. It's going to be quantum based. I was told you literally will be able to vote on your phone, and it'll all be locked down. It'll all be on the blockchain. None of it will be able to be adulterated. No will be able to stuff the ballots or stuff the votes, anything like that. Kelly, have you heard that as well?
Absolutely. The blockchain, the patent that they have on it, it was in the fall when I first came across it, and that's what we need. We need something legitimate that can't be finagled.
David, what's your thoughts on what this is going to look like? I talked to a friend of mine earlier, and he's like, how in the world are people going to accept this? I mean, how are they? I mean, this is such a unbelievable paradigm shift with what we're used to. I mean, look at the control they have us now. Just look at the masks that they've been able to trick us into wearing here for so long. I mean, people have really been captured. How are they going to break out of this? This is a 180 compared
Yes,
to people
it
who have a
is.
hard time dealing with this topic. What's your thoughts?
Yes, it is. Well, you know, Klaus Schwab has been talking about the Great Reset. Of course, we got Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. They have the bad boys have their own vision of what the Great Reset is going to be. However, with what's going on with the shift, if I dare mention that, the whole world is waking up. They're starting to see how disgusting and how vile and how evil these creatures are. This is not about politics anymore, folks. It's about good versus evil. And some people are drawing a comparison. I mean, this could be very well be the beginning points of the Battle of Armageddon. You know, I mean, this is how serious this is. Now, how are people going to make that adjustment? I don't know. But, you know, we all like to sing along with John Lennon's song, Imagine. Imagine there's no countries. Imagine this, imagine that. And we cry and we think it's just wonderful and peace and love. But really, seriously, honestly, imagine what it would be like if all the world, the global's wealth, was basically given back to the people of the world. And think about all the technologies that have been suppressed for decades. The old John Rockefeller philosophy of competition is sin, which is why the oil companies put the railroad companies out of business way back when, and why Tesla technology was never released, and why the light bulbs that will never burn out were suppressed. There was an old movie with Sir Alec Guinness. You might want to look this up. It's called The Man in the White Suit. It's a beautiful film, and it's exactly about it's about a guy that designs a cloth, a material. He makes a white suit, and it can't be ripped or torn or stained or anything like that. And at first, he's a big hero. But then all the textile companies realize that if somebody buys a suit like that, they'll never have to buy another one. So he becomes attacked and whatever. I'm not going to go any further than that. But the point is that all the technologies and the medicine, the treatments that have been suppressed are going to be released. And all the things that the bad boys, the cabal, have done to make us sick and to dumb us down, the fluoride in the water and the chemtrails and the contrails and the bisphenol A and the prions in our plastics and all of this stuff has been designed to keep us sick and to have us, it's sort of like an investment. People who are invested in the manufacture of insulin are also invested in places like McDonald's and Burger King, so they can guarantee that people are going to come down with diabetes and have to buy insulin. Okay, all that philosophy, that mindset will go away. So it's going to be a real tough job for everybody to make this adjustment. But once you do, and those dark clouds are lifted, and all of this technology is released, it'll be a joyous day. It sounds too good to be true, but what's the alternative, folks? This is why this global battle is going on right now, and it's not about politics. It's not about Trump. It's good versus evil. And if you want to say, light versus darkness, God versus Satan, whatever way you want to put it, we are moving out of this age of deception, and it's been going on for the millennia. And this is part of the shift. We go from Pisces into Aquarius.
Well, speaking of the health thing, I just want to throw this in. David also said that he's been dealing with someone in the Far East that is helping facilitate this. He's had to fly out there and meet with them twice face to face. He doesn't speak. He said he doesn't speak English, but he's met with them twice. He said the guy's 137 years old, and he doesn't look like day past 70. I said, David, wait a minute. Are you telling me that they have life extension technologies available out there that they're not releasing to us? He kind of laughed and said, you just wait and see. I mean, just telling you what the man told me. I know him. He's been a contact of mine. I know him through 3 or 4 different people. He's legitimate. I don't see any reason to think that he's lying to me. And this goes along, like I said, with Anna von Reitz, who's been on my show a few times and talked about this numerous times. This is all happening, folks. I know that people are going to reject it and say this is crazy, this is bunk, this is BS. You
Been there, done that. I wore out a whole wardrobe of T-shirts with that garbage.
I know. But it's about time, I think. Jason, let me throw you in here. It's about time. I mean, we've been repressed since all of us have been alive. We've lived under the yoke of this tyranny. All of this establishment, all this cabal, whatever you want to call them, they've been in charge since all of us have been alive here in this room, and mostly everybody that's watching this program right now. I think it's about time that we took our lives and our country back, Jason, and the world back, technically. What's your thoughts?
Completely 100% on board. We really do. Some of the things that Americans, and I say that loosely because they were the evil ones, that they have done to others in Africa, Australia, Asia, even Europe, even to our own people. They have really done some bad things to a lot of good people. I mean, great people. And we have to put an end to that. We have to, we as Americans, as patriots, we need to step up and say, no, not anymore. And we need to just fix it. We need to help prepare Mother Earth, because this is the only home we have right now.
Yeah. Well, Kelly, I know you've been researching some stuff here, and I know you brought some documentation with you, but this is something that, I mean, you're a dogged researcher. This is not something you just picked up a couple days ago. You've been researching for a while here. Tell us some of the things that you found out. Can you add to, and again, I remember some of these things. I was a little blown away, really, when I talked to him. I wasn't expecting him to drop what he dropped on me, or I would have been here, like, recording the conversation here at my studio. I just, on the way home, just happened to call him and say, hey, David, what do you think's going on here with with the president and everything? Give me, because I know he's got inside info. And he dropped these bombs on me, and I was just sort of stunned a little bit myself. I didn't really take good notes. I just mental notes. But I know, Kelly, that you have some stuff that you want to add as well. I'll shoot it over to you.
I do. Something that you had brought up that he had mentioned is Jubilee, new banking system, new voting system. Those all stem from something that has actually been around since Clinton signed it in back in '96, thanks to farmers. We can thank the farmers for this. And it's the National Economic Security and Reformation Act that they've been continuously just rolling over, and they haven't rolled out, which was what was supposed to actually initiate all these things more than 20 years ago. It discusses in here abolishing the IRS and the Federal Reserve and creating a new non-fiat currency that's backed by all the precious metals, the gold, the silver, essentially whatever the country has as far as their minerals. They're going to be able to utilize those. Like, as weird as this may sound, I don't know if you guys know this, but I can't remember if it's Iraq or Iran, but they have massive emerald mines out there. Well, they're going to be using the emeralds as part of their different kind of system as far as that's concerned. It's going to, and you guys are going to think this is shocking, but our banking system is corrupt, which includes the mortgages, the credit cards, the student loans, everything like that. It has to be washed off. Essentially, it has to be completely wiped out. everything that we have done over the years, over these contracts that we've signed for our mortgages and other things that we didn't understand. We unknowingly signed these things, not completely fully aware of the full consequences of what kind of contractual agreement we were getting into with the banking system. That has to go away. So they're all going to be wiped out, and we're going to start clean and fresh.
Let me give you an example of that if I can. Sorry to cut you off.
That's okay.
But it's like when you go, and I've brought this up on my show before with Ron Gibson, when you go to get your first job, whether it be at a restaurant, a 7-Eleven or whatever, and you sit down for that initial meeting with the manager and you fill out your tax forms and you sign your name to your 1040, you volunteer yourself into the taxation system of the United States government.
Yeah.
You volunteer yourself to be in that, and you don't even know that you're doing it. You don't realize when you sign your name on that first 1040, you're putting yourself into servitude for them to take a third of your wages for the rest of your life. That is done under fraud. That's all going away. That's no longer valid contracts that were signed under fraud. You care to comment on that, David?
Well, it's funny you should bring that up because they get you in so many different ways. For instance, you fill out an application and they ask you, are you a U.S. citizen? Most people say yes. Well, the definition of a U.S. citizen is one who resides in a territory of the United States. And if you live in a territory, again, that comes under the auspice of the Section 1 title, the 10 square miles. Right. Okay? So if you live within Washington, D.C., you're a U.S. citizen. If you live in U.S. Philippines, or Guam, or Puerto Rico, or territory, you are a U.S. citizen and are therefore liable for their tax. But if you're a citizen of one of the sovereign states, you don't come underneath that jurisdiction. So no, if you say, are you a U.S. citizen, you're volunteering into that system. You don't even know who you are. You know, and then they also is the issue of the definition of income. According to the U.S. tax code, income is any monies derived through the sale, manufacture, or distribution of alcohol, tobacco, or firearms. Hence the ATF. Okay, that's the enforcement arm of the IRS. The point is that whatever you do, if you flip burgers for a living, or pound nails for a living, or drive a car for the living, or a truck, you're not involved in the sale, manufacture, or distribution of alcohol, tobacco, or firearms, and therefore the monies derived from that are not defined as income. But if they ask you on the form, you know, what is your income? And you go, well, I made $35,000 this year, and you put $35,000, you just volunteered to have your money taxed. So all these definitions of terms have been twisted, and I mean, you just change a letter. That's why there's a difference between the United States of America and the United States, is that one's a capital S and the other's a small s. It's the letter of the law, and it's a game that they've been playing for decades.
And, you know, folks, I'm going to do a shameless plug here. If you want to find out what I'm talking about, if you go to Northwest Liberty News YouTube channel and type in "The Truth Will Set You Free," my friend Ron Gibson has been on the phone, on the show 20 times if he's been on once, and he's laid all this out in detail. That's a 5-part video. It's like 6 or 7 hours long. It's free. Listen to what the man has to say, because everything that he's talking about in that video, that's what we're going to. That's what we're moving into. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I just want to point out a lot of this information that we're going on, people who are watching this right now are pretty much well informed. A lot of this stuff is stuff that they already know. What's coming in the next 10 days is, I think, what brought us all together, and what brought me here, what brought Kelly here. We said, oh my God, this stuff is going to happen. Now, a lot of people are, of course, like we started off the broadcast, people are being sad and they're feeling angry and they're being frustrated and down and all that stuff. But what's coming in the next 10 days, Jim or Kelly, I don't care who does it, but one of you guys got to tell the listeners what's going to happen. Now, some people say Trump, Biden will never be president. It's not going to happen. Trump's going to have 4 more years. Other people are saying Biden's going to get sworn in and Trump's going to get thrown out. Okay, but there's a certain amount of truth in both of those statements. Kelly, would you be so kind as to elaborate?
Okay. We knew this was going to go there. So in that document that James was talking about that Anna had put out there, it also states all federal subcontractors except Donald Trump are working without a contract tonight. The corporations they worked for, both municipal and territorial, are defunct, and no new assumption of contract by any incorporated entity has been allowed. So Joe Biden may be president of the United States. in whatever form or name the municipal board of directors may choose for a new governmental services corporation. But neither he nor they have a contract with the actual American government, and they are not allowed to act as agents for us. So what I see going down in my gut, because this is what I've been feeling the whole time. Like I yesterday was saying the inauguration isn't going to happen. Well, based upon what we've heard in the last 24 hours, okay, the inauguration is going to happen. Why? Because Kamala Harris currently is a senator. She hasn't given up her seat yet, but Joe Biden isn't. Joe Biden has to be sworn in to become a part of the military part so that he can be arrested by the military. I anticipate that arrest is going to happen within moments of that happening. Now, after that happens, they have to disclose why. So they have to give out all of the proof of the election fraud, and they're going to give the details. Everything they got from the CIA servers in Germany, everything they got from Italy, everything they have regarding, Nevada and the Pakistan information swaps. Everybody was in on it. So we all know that it all comes down to the CIA. So the next thing that's going to happen is that is going to just blow people's minds, and you're going to have a lot of really upset people. Well, how do you fix a whole bunch of millions of upset people? You give them their sovereignty back. You eradicate their debts. You get rid of their tax income. You bring in an actual good currency. You retrain the system of judges and courts so that we can have legitimacy in things and not the corruption of putting people in jail for things that they really shouldn't be in jail for. And you restructure things. But the biggest thing is the humanitarian process. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to fix what happened to make it right. And that means hunger. We need to eradicate hunger across this planet. We have more than enough food for everybody to eat. It's just the fact that the distribution lines of being able for them to access it have been cut off because they're in control of the bad guys.
Well, they've stolen trillions. They've stolen trillions and trillions from us over the years, and the streets in America should be paved with gold. We've had that kind of wealth, but they've siphoned it off, and I'm talking trillions and hundreds of trillions of dollars, folks. This is all going to be given back to the public that who's its rightful owner. Now I don't know exactly how that. When I talked to David, he says I'm working, Jim, right now. Literally, they've tasked me to work on the 700-page document that's going to describe how the process for the trust, for the birth certificate trusts, those accounts are going to be open to people. But it's not like you can rush in and take $10 million out. It'd be like if you get a bill, you send it to the trust, it's taken care of. If you get a bill a couple of days later, you mail it in, it's taken care of. Again, he's working literally, he said it's 700 pages. He's working on the framework for making that happen. He's in the know. As I said, he's worked with William Barr. And that was one of the things that kind of, I have to say, I was a little bit shocked by. I mean, you just don't know because you hear a bunch of stuff. What's your thoughts on that, Jason, about William Barr being the guy that really put this all together, and he's really been a white hat working behind the scenes? Does that surprise you?
Not one bit, actually. Because you know how like a lot of this has been, JFK Jr. has been brought up a lot, right? About how he's still alive and how he's, because he and President Trump were best friends, and how Hillary Clinton, had him, exterminated because of the whole Senate seat. They didn't want another Kennedy in there. But after that plane crash, there was a specific person that actually inspected all the plane wreckage and deemed what was wrong. His name was Michael Barr. Now, Michael Barr happens to be an aeronautics expert at USC, and it also happens to be William Barr's brother. So the depth of how deep and how far these rabbit holes go, and how long it's taken for all of this to come together. It's actually kind of disheartening to hear, patriots now that, we've been doing this for 3 years saying, well, if we don't see anything in 10 days, then, I don't believe in the plan. It's like there have been many, many people, many military, many soldiers, many Marines, many civilians that have given the ultimate sacrifice in order for us to come into this brand new golden age. And it's a shame that it's almost like they have to, their lives are not going to be lost in vain.
And I want
any of us.
I just want to jump in, Jason, and just tell you how much I admire you and so many others who have taken up the torch. When I was doing this 25 years ago, it was rather frustrating because, this why I was asking the musical question, will someone listen? People weren't ready to hear it. But now I think what's happened is in the past, say 4 or 5 years, the rest of the world is waking up, and it's time for people to realize that, yes, it can happen, and it is happening. And it's only happening because of the efforts of you and Steele and all the other. I can't even. There's so many out there that are doing videos and basically carrying on the torch. And I'm just thrilled to be. That's why I'm just jumping back in. I've been radio silent for 11 years. I gave up. I threw up my hands. It wasn't going to happen, but it's happening. And
Well,
I'm so thrilled.
let's talk about that for a minute. Dave vonKleist, broadcast legend, used to be the tandem of the Power Hour for many years. Also, the producer of 9/11 in Plain Sight, literally a legend in the field of 9/11 research and studies. Take us back, if you can, Dave. You were working. If you tell us that story again, because that's so key. See, that ties everything together. We've only met here in the last 6 or 8 months, I think, probably. I didn't even know you were living so close to me, but we connected up to come together. You were in that meeting, and they told you when you were with Joyce, they pulled you into that meeting, and they used the term white hats, and they said something to the effect that it's been years and years for them to take over. It's going to take us years and years to get this country back. This is not a plan that's just been hatched when Trump was president in 2016.
No.
Tell us about that, David.
No, well, like I said, I don't have all those puzzle pieces. I hadn't even thought about this, like I said, until the past year or two, when all of this talk about white hats started to come to the surface, and all of a sudden the bulb went off over my head. I went, oh my God, was I in that meeting? I remember, and because this is all stuff I tried to put behind me. And I like I said at the beginning, I've just been a musician and a talk show host and stuff like that. And I stumbled way down this rabbit hole. And after everything all hit the fan back in 2009, and I said, no more. I'm not going to do this anymore. No good deeds go unpunished. and I'd been through the mill. But now, like I said, in the past couple of years, all this talk about the white hats, the puzzle pieces are fitting together. And I'm realizing that, yes, this is what we're witnessing now. We can do this. We can go back to being sovereign citizens again and flying the correct flag, the Title IV flag, as opposed to this American flag, which is a desecration. We can go back to, having our real names instead of some sort of a straw man with all capital letters that we use to do contractual business with. So it's really happening. And again, I'm thrilled to have been a part of this in its, 25 years ago. And I didn't know at the time how significant it was, but now the puzzle pieces all fit together. And it's not just me, it's the whole flaming world. I love it.
Well, something, go ahead, Kelly. You want something you want to say?
I'm sorry,
Kelly,
I didn't hear that.
Kelly, go ahead.
This is going to be difficult.
This is going to be difficult.
It's
It's going to be difficult for everybody to go through this. It's going to be a real eye opener, especially for the people that have no idea what's been transpiring and what's going on. This is going to be like flashbang.
We got a bit of a delay, Jim. The audio. Can we fix that?
No, I know we do. I don't know if I can. It was syncing fine, and then something happened. Maybe there's a little bit of delay in the network, but we'll just keep moving forward.
What we have
And
company
the fact that
and
we're
the fact
able to
that
be
we're
here
able to be here to watch it and participate in it
be a part
and
of
be
the
a
entire
part of
thing
the
and
entire thing and actually just watch it all unfold in front of us is phenomenal. Some people are going to reject it because they're going to be scared, because something new is always scary. But when you realize what the end result is, peace is the prize. And that's for everybody.
Indeed, Jason, what is your in your sphere of influence? What are you hearing? Are you hearing? There's been a lot of anxiety. Of course, people are worried. And another thing I want to say too, folks, My contact said all the stuff that you hear about impeachment and about arresting Trump and about he's all noise. It's all meaningless. I said, well, he's not going to the inauguration, he said. And he said he doesn't have to. It's meaningless. It's already been done. It's a done deal. Everything's already been signed. There's nothing they can do to stop it now. And it brings me back to what QAnon said. And I don't really follow QAnon, I follow him, but I don't really report on QAnon. I do other things. But I know one of the things that is said is nothing can stop what is coming. Nothing. And that's basically what I was told last night. Nothing can stop what is coming here with this whole transition over to the new republic, if you will. Jason, is your circle of influence, the sphere of people that you hang with, are they feeling the same way?
A lot of them have been fearful. They've been afraid, scared, nervous. But as we sit down with them and we go over it, because what I like to do is I like to keep it as simple as possible so that everybody can understand it. And once you keep it that simple, and once you understand fully and can actually produce the documentation and show them, because a lot of people are busy with their lives. A lot of people, they have children, they have careers and all that, and they don't have the time to put into this. So that is why I believe that for myself, it was my civic duty to actually take part in this. But taking part in this meant that we were all doing it together. Because I'm not looking for any kind of accolades, any kind of to be put on any kind of pedestal for even doing this, because this is everybody's collaboration, and it's all coming to one place. And we actually we were contacted by a library, an online library that is all over the world. And we are actually going to have all of our documents. And if all of you have documents as well, we can add them in. And it's going to be available for everybody across the world to read as the new history books, as a new history, as a new world history, as a history for all of us coming together, because we're all one race. We're all the human race, no matter what color, what creed, what religion, what sexuality, where we're from. We're all patriots at the end of the day. We all want what's right for our there's nothing wrong with nationalism. There's nothing wrong with loving your country. There's nothing wrong with loving where you're from. But at the end of the day, the love of your country and the love of your fellow man all across the world, and the love of God, that is what is going to win the entire war. Because as you mentioned about Armageddon, we're right in the middle of Armageddon. Yep. We have a front row, we have a front seat in Armageddon, and we're watching it. But as they say, the silent war continues. Now, when you speak of silent war, there are others that are giving the sacrifice for fighting this unnecessary evil. And our job is to get out the information. Our job is to inform the public. Our job is to help others heal. And once we help them understand that they don't have to be afraid anymore, because the best really is yet to come. And once you realize what the best is, imagine a world like when you were speaking about imagine a world with there's absolutely no evil. There is no there's no unhappiness. There's no one that's going to go without. There is.
It's going to take a while to get there, though.
Actually, it's going to go faster than we really think, because when the humanitarians step in, and there are a lot of them, and we're going to start grabbing, those that want to help. We're going to just go gangbusters, and we're going to take it all on. Because if we're doing this unselfishly, it's all about service to others. Now, there are those that are service to self. There's those that service to others. Now, as long as you maintain that you're service to others, you're willing to help your fellow man, those are the people that will truly succeed into helping others convert to service to others. They'll actually help them break that mold, because right now they're asleep and they're actually, taken over by, technology, just trinkets, breads and circuses, even all the way back to Rome. It's this whole vicious circle goes so far back that it's truly unbelievable. But we're in the now. We're us. And, we need to do this for our forefathers, because they did it for us.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where we let them down because we were blinded. We were blinded by technology. We were blinded by the lies. We were blinded by politicians. And
Too busy
No,
working
way
our
too
jobs
busy.
to pay
Yeah.
attention.
and they kept us busy. And what they did is that they had, because I was fortunate enough to have a mom that stayed home with me, as raising me, and that's how it should be. You have a mother, so then what happens? The kids, they pretty much fend for themselves. They're into their own thing and everything. You can't watch them. You can't monitor what they're into. And it gives them free reign to, to abduct children, to have their way. But this is where we need to stand up and we need to say, never again will this ever happen. Ever. And we
Go ahead,
need to
Dave.
all come together and realize that it's just bad.
Go ahead, David.
Yes, sir.
Just noticing we have a couple questions here. And one of the questions is, if Biden and Harris get arrested, who then becomes the president?
There's a new
election coming up on March 4th.
Yep. Now who's going to be in charge in interim?
General Flynn.
It may be General Flynn. It wasn't mentioned, but
That was a big.
It actually was. It was mentioned in a Q drop with the People's General, and they had the 3 stars. That's why General Flynn was given a full pardon.
Well, folks,
Because General Flynn.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Because General Flynn, he is the truest American that we've had. He is the one that he sacrificed it all. He sacrificed his home, sacrificed everything for us to unveil this pure evil coming out of DC, and that just spiderwebbed all over the nation, all over the world. And if people think that this is just an America problem, this is a complete planetary problem.
Sure, it's a worldwide global prison grid. And folks, it shouldn't surprise you. We've got the Epstein information that came out. We've got the Ghislaine Maxwell information that came out. We got the Hillary Clinton server. We've got the Weinstein or the Wiener laptop, right? All that. When would you ever think that all of this stuff would come out into the open in the course of 4 years since Trump has been president? All of this stuff about all the crimes specifically against children and sex trafficking and what went on at Epstein Island, which is just horrific beyond description. This stuff has all been coming out, made public knowledge. Kelly, this was never meant, they never wanted this information out in the public. They never wanted you to know about Epstein's Island and what went on there and a Wiener's laptop, and they never wanted that to be known. I mean, this shouldn't surprise people. We could see, if you look back, and everybody wants to be involved in the day-to-day stuff, right? Because it's like it's intense. But if you take a 30,000-foot view of things and look over the last 4 years, they've been decimated by information, decimated by the knowledge that's come out. Well, Kelly, what do you think about that?
This is a war for the minds of men. End of discussion. That's what it is. That's why they are so scared. And here comes the 25th Amendment, another impeachment, all this BS that they're just throwing out there just because they're just trying to keep us in this state of fear that what they think is going to happen and what they wanted to happen as far as their plan is actually going to transpire. But they know it's not coming. I caught some information where I think Ratcliffe's document in regards to the foreign election interference was dropped off to Congress as soon as they had gone through the actual commitment of Biden being the new president. with the electoral with Congress last Wednesday. And when you think about the manipulation of the information that's happened for such a long time, there are so many people that are still in that realm of understanding because they feel that the news media is actually going to tell them the truth. What they see on their TV screen is reality when it is not. It's manipulated to have us have an understanding of what is actually factual. And it's very hard to take a step back and try and figure it out on your own. When you start learning about all the different aspects of all the different things that they've done, it's difficult. I went through some major lows of depression coming to grasp with
the reality
the
of
reality
what they
of
had
what
done
they had done,
because
because
it's
it's
very difficult to comprehend. But when
you get over that and you get past it and you understand it and you understand the mission at hand of what everybody is doing together, you can't help but be excited, because you know that the whole thing is to eradicate that situation and have us go to a place of love and happiness and prosperity and sovereignty and be the free beings that we are.
No doubt about it. You know, in the Great Reset, as you saw, their race, the Great Resets is reared its head here over 2020. This is the counter move from the cabal or from the establishment, because they had to see what was coming. I mean, once November 2nd rolled around and they realized that the United States, America Incorporated went bankrupt and is no longer solvent, you see all the scrambling, kicking everybody off of, why do you think they're kicking everybody off social media now? I mean, right now, because they know that this information is coming out. The days are very short here, folks. It's the quickening. The quickening is upon us. It's not long now. Jason, did you want to comment?
Oh no. When Kelly raised up her hand about getting kicked off of social media, I was like, well, that's me too.
We both got kicked off within an hour of each other.
Yeah. And all we were doing, we weren't saying anything negative. We weren't saying anything derogatory. All we were doing was speaking the truth, and we were producing the truth. And it seems that, everything that we've learned throughout, since we were a child, the truth shall set you free. And I mean, even our parents instilled to us, if you always tell the truth, you will have nothing to worry about. And now that we're telling the truth, and having the documents to back it up, it's like now we're punished.
Well, somebody mentioned something in here about General McInerney was in the White House and talked about, and I wanted to mention that's what my source said last night. He said he says it was terrible that woman lost her life. That wasn't intended, but there's casualties of war. But it was a white hat operation to get the everybody in Congress out of that area, and the military swept through and took the laptops and other things, not just laptops. Now, after I had talked to him about that last night, and he said that to me, then I saw the video next morning about General McInerney came out and said that very same thing. I think it was early this morning, late last night, I'm not sure, but it was a white hat operation to sweep through and take out all those appliances that were in the Capitol building. David, this has been a white hat operation. Back when we talk to these people, they used the term white hat, I believe, if I remember you saying correctly. This is something that has been probably, what would you say, 25 years in the making, perhaps 25, 30 years for this?
Well, I would have to say I came in halfway through the movie. Okay, I mean, this is obviously an effort that's been going on ever since JFK was killed. I just happened to come in '96 after, making myself somewhat known as far as being an advocate for veterans. And so I was very lucky to be invited along with Joyce at that particular time. But like I said, at the time, I didn't have any clue what this all meant. I was just brand new. I'd only started doing talk radio back in '95. So
We lost you.
oh, you lost me?
I can't hear you.
What happened? Oh, my audio went out.
There we go.
Now you're
Okay,
good.
I just turned. I forgot when I turned that mic down. I turned everybody. We got a little bit of an echo.
Yeah, I'm trying to
I think
take.
we've
That's
got
why I'm
the mic.
taking
I
off the
think we've
headphones.
got the mic from the board on, and the mic from Skype are both on. And I think they're just So you might have to mute your Skype mic, Kelly. I think that might work. You can do that.
Is it my mic or her mic? I don't know.
Well, it may be bleeding over. It may get some bleed over. That's okay. We'll work through it.
That's okay. Well, I'm just going to say I feel privileged, although at the time I didn't realize how privileged I was to be sitting in that meeting. You know, but what Jason was saying just a few minutes ago is that, you know, we do have to have a mindset. One of the reasons why I left the 9/11 movement is because I found that there were so many that were in it for the wrong reasons. They're in it for the money or the accolades. They want to have a plaque or some sort of recognition of how they saved or they got to the truth of what happened at 9/11. And like I said, you know, more people were more concerned about selling their video or their book or something like that. And again, if you're in it for the praise and the accolades, you're in it for the wrong reasons. And this is why I think what's happening right now, this is the great awakening, the great shift. People are realizing, and I don't want to sound esoteric, but materialism is not the way to go. You know, there are things much great,
Lost your mic,
you know.
There we go. You're back.
Oh, I don't know why that's
That was
cutting
my
out.
fault.
You're right. You're right.
But anyway, I just wanted to reiterate or bolster up what Jason had said. You know, the people who are involved in this right now are in it for the right reasons. And this is one of the reasons why I decided, you know, I said, okay, I left the airwaves 11 years ago, and I swore I would never do it again. But now I've seen there's not just a glimmer of hope, but it seems like the sun has finally broken through the clouds. And we all have good reason to be smiling and understanding that it's really happening, folks. It can't not happen. This is biblical in proportions.
I know it's really weird when you think about all the stuff that's happening right now and how many people are so upset about Joe getting in. Let it go. You don't need to fear what's coming. Have some happiness of knowing. And if you need to do the research to prove to yourself that it's really going to happen, that's good. That's what we actually suggest. But when you come to grips with the whole big picture, which is massive, the puzzle pieces is what all of us are trying to put together so we can look at it and get the whole idea. And everybody contributes a little piece. But when you can't get the smile off my face because I know what's coming and I'm so excited about it. And I talk about it all the time, but it's very hard to believe when you've had zero exposure to it. And that's the thing that I think is very important that the four of us really care about here is that we want you to understand the truth. We want you to let go of that fear. We don't want you to get angry, upset, violent, that things aren't going the way that you want them to go and the timeline you want them to go. They have their own order. They will happen when they happen. Nobody can determine when it's going to happen. We can't sit here and say at this time on this day, this is going to happen. What we can say is we have a window. And during this window, you're going to see some stuff come down that you think is going to be bad or go against what we're doing. But that's not it. It's to either open your mind to something that you weren't aware of before, or this is also going to be done in the most compassionate way possible. However, some people need a big slap across the face in order to understand exactly what's going on and what has happened. And you need to wake up to it. And you need to start understanding it. You need to start talking about it. You need to recognize it. And you need to join the movement of exposing the truth so that we can all go through this together and we can come out on the end in a much better place than we've been for decades, hundreds of years, thousands of years, as Jason said. We keep repeating this process. This time we're going to get it right.
Jason, let me ask you this. Do you think we're going to see things and how are people going to react to things when we come out and find out about 9/11 and about that being a false flag and about the people involved in that, about the JFK assassination? From what I'm understanding, all of these things, of course, history is written by the victors. I've heard all of these, what I'm understanding is a lot of this information that's been hidden from us and kept from us because of quote-unquote national security or whatever reasons, that's all going to be exposed. How are people going to react when they find out that elements inside our own government allowed 9/11 to happen and even colluded with some of the people that perpetrated it? How do you think that people are going to react to that?
People are going to be angry. People are going to be angry that these are the people that they trusted. These are the people that they listen to on mainstream media. And mainstream media they were completely complacent in it as well, because they're also CIA operatives. Now, when it comes to the culprits of 9/11, when they finally realized that it had nothing to do with Muslims or, anybody that even had anything to do with, the Islam faith, it's going to be really, really sad, because we blame these people for all this time, and we've gone over to their lands, we've bombed their villages, and we've done all this just to destroy, pieces of antiquity, pieces of the true beginning of the world. And there were a lot of innocent people that actually died under our hands, but they were just following
Foreign
orders.
and domestic.
And yes, foreign and domestic, especially like here with the whole 9/11. When they find out 9/11 happened, is so that what is about to roll out, the act that Kelly protruded to, that was supposed to roll out at that day.
10 a.m.
And they did not want that to roll out. So they would much rather murder a bunch of Americans and blame it on somebody else, while all of the culprits, they sat around with their feet on their desks watching and actually making money off of it.
Well, you can't forget the fact that I think in September 10th of 2001, Donald Rumsfeld came out and said that the Defense Department misplaced $2.3 trillion. I believe it was $2.3 trillion. You misplaced $2.3 trillion on September 10th. How did you hear about that? No, because next day, September 11th happened, and all that whole $2.3 trillion that they robbed us from, they robbed from us, never got brought up again until, like, I'm bringing it up now when other people are brought up. David, I'm sure you're well aware of this. Dave, being a 9/11 expert, really, or expert researcher, what's your thoughts on that? Did you remember that statement by Rumsfeld, $2.3 trillion?
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did. And it's funny because we're so used to hearing the term trillion these days that, we're talking 20 years ago. When you started talking trillions of dollars, people would go, oh my gosh. Now you hear trillion, say, oh, okay, yeah, trillion. Now we got another $6 trillion in debt. Oh, okay. We got a total of what, 27 trillion? Oh, okay. But I mean, 20 years ago, when somebody said trillion, it blew your mind. And in the sequel film, the 9/11 Ripple Effect, I actually looked at one of the thousands of government contracts and just traced this one contract, which normally domestically would have probably only cost about $30,000 to $40,000, but Halliburton was awarded I think it was $21.3 million or something to do the same job. And it's the financial rate of the American people, and this has been going on, and that's just one government contract, one private contract out of thousands every year that the Pentagon throws away. This is the wealth that's been stolen from America and the rest of the world. And this is why this is such a joyous occasion, that this entire system that has been built upon fraud, corruption, blackmail, collusion, you name it. This whole system, this whole cabal, that's how they work. That's what they do. And it's all going to go away. I'm so happy about it.
Kelly, we've heard the story. We've heard the course of saying before, if America falls, then the rest of the world falls. The reverse of that is, if America breaks free of this tyranny and forms a new republic, then the rest of the world will also follow, just like they would have followed the fall. I think they're going to benefit from the rise. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. Completely agree with it. When you talk about Nasara and Jassara, Nasara is just the national part. Jassara is the global part. Well, this isn't just about us. This is about everybody. This is about everybody in this entire world has been a part of it just because you don't live in the United States and a part of this tax thing doesn't mean that you haven't been robbed and your family members in some fashion for decades, because it has. And the manipulation has happened to them just as significantly as it's happened to us. It just depends on where you are and what percentage or part that participates in. But yeah, if you think that the rest of the world doesn't have any deep state participants in their governments, you better wake up. Because let me tell you, China's got them. I don't know, I like Putin. But
You'd be hard pressed to find out who doesn't.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, sincerely. So the whole place has to be cleaned. It's not just here, everywhere. Everybody got to be cleaned up. They're all gonna, this is an assumption on my part, but I think the rest of the world is gonna kind of come under the sovereignty of the United States Constitution. And I think they're gonna have the same rights as the rest of us.
All roads lead back to Rome, as they say, and I think we've just saw information come out the last few days that that traced the voter fraud in the past election right back to Italy. Have you guys heard about that? Do you care to comment on any of that? Jason, do you have any insight on that? Have you heard about that? All roads lead to Rome, and we go back, of course, to the Pope, and we go back to the Vatican and all the stuff that's, the Vatican Bank. Really ran by the Swiss Guard, from what I understand. Switzerland's a big part of this. What's your thoughts on that, Jason? Any thoughts?
If you don't mind, if I could just go back to the 9/11 and touch on that real quick.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Now with Dave, what I have in my possession is I have handwritten notes from Lynn Cheney from when she was in the White House during 9/11. It explains how many planes were in the air at the time. When we were told there's one, there were over 20. This was a whole complete mission. This was a mission to steal gold. And the gold was at the bottom of the 7th World Trade Center.
Building 7. Yeah, Building 7, yeah.
Because it was the Chinese royal family. It was the old gold. And they had a 99-year lease, and it was up. So what they did is I had a lot of friends, because I've been an ironworker for 21 years, right? So we've put up these buildings. So when it comes to World Trade Centers 1 and 2, I know how they were constructed, and I know how buildings work. I know the engineering of it, and those were never could they have come down in their own footprint. They could have taken numerous 747 hits, because when one thinks about a plane that is built out of aluminum, when they hit a bird, it dents the nose cone. They have to go down immediately and have it repaired.
Yeah.
Now, how the World Trade Center was constructed, they had the narrow windows due to the fact that they had 3-foot iron columns welded. They were about 1.5 inch thick flanges, at 1.5 inch thick, tube columns, and it was all around the outside. And on the inside, it had like a double insulation where the inside was all concrete core. Right. So where they hit them on the top, the weakest part of any building is the basement. It's just like anything. If you knock the legs out, everything comes down. But they couldn't knock the legs out. They tried that in 90.
Not the other way around.
Yeah. And when it hit there, that's fine. But there was a lot of help up there, as we know.
Right. I just want to interject that William Rodriguez, you may recall that he was the janitor who had the master key. And he testified before the the 9/11 Commission, rather. And he had stated that the first thing that happened was an explosion below him. And he was in the 5th level down in the Trade Center 1. He said the first thing that happened was an explosion below him, and then a few seconds afterwards, they heard the thud of the plane hitting up above. So yes, there was an attempt to get at the lower infrastructure. You're right on that.
One has to do is look back to the 1993 bombing with Rashad Salam, who was set up by the FBI. He was going to be used as the patsy. If you remember, they tried to take him to court. His attorney came out. He actually realized that he was being used as a patsy and started recording all of the conversations that he had with the FBI. They tried to actually, they talked about indicting him. If you, I remember the video, his attorney showed up with a stack of information and said, this is all information I have of all recordings of you trying to influence my client and set him up for this bombing. It was all dropped. They never went after the guy. They never went after Rasad Salam because they found out that the FBI was really behind the whole thing in 1993. Folks, this has been going on. This is, I say it's been going on, and these people have been running things since all of us have been alive. It's not an exaggeration. Every waking moment that we've been alive, because none of us are 180 years old, every waking moment that we've been alive, we've been under the yoke of these tyrants and these establishment cabal bloodline families, whatever you want to call them. And I know it's hard to believe that we're finally breaking free of that, but I'm telling you folks, and those, my guests here, all the information that I'm getting from multiple sources is that this is going through, and I know it's unbelievable, and I even have a hard time grasping, and I've been kind of looking into it for years, and I'm even somewhat can't believe that it's actually finally happening because we've been disappointed so often. Isn't that going to be the toughest thing? Yeah, isn't that going to be the hardest thing to get over, is the belief that we're not just going to get disappointed one more time because it's happened over and over and over again. And I understand people's default position is, yeah, I don't believe it. I don't think it's going to happen. I listen, I don't fault you. I don't blame you. David, what do you think?
What do I think about what? We got a whirlwind of information going on here. I think what's happening is what you were just hitting upon it. You know, everybody is a little bit confused right now. We're feeling off balance, and we've had so many failures in the past that, you know, we just can't help but prepare ourselves emotionally for yet another failure. And I suppose that still applies right now. Everybody's, you know, wondering what the hell's going to happen. So I think that maybe if we have a guarded sense of security right now, but either way, there's just no way that this thing can't happen. It may not play out exactly the way we are thinking it might, but it can't not happen. The world is going to reset one way or the other. The Pandora's box is open. The rest of the world now understands what and who the cabal is. I mean, it can't be held a secret anymore. But Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Warburgs, Coons, Loebs, all of the crime families, they're all being exposed. And they're all being exposed for what they are, not just, you know, who they are. And what they are is just pure evil incarnate, to be able to participate in these heinous activities that are just now becoming public knowledge. This is real stuff. And like I said, you know, 25 years ago when I befriended Ted Gunderson over the Oklahoma City bombing, we spent many hours together over the years. And a lot of times the issue about the sex trafficking was a topic of conversation. I mean, he goes all the way back to the Franklin cover-up, Boys Town, Johnny Gosh, John Benet Ramsey, you know, pedophile networks in the Catholic Church, you know, the Boy Scouts of America. This all had been being investigated long before I even became a patriot. He was in there doing that stuff back in the 70s and 80s. And to share all that stuff with me, and it's just horrific. You get sick to your stomach when you hear about some of this stuff. And to now see that it's the light of truth is being shown on it, not just to a few, but to the entire world. That's why I don't see that this could possibly be a psyop or a failure. It can't be. There's too many good people in the world to let this continue. So yes, there's going to be a great reset. Hey, but Klaus Schwab, it ain't going to be yours, buddy.
Yeah, right on. Well, we anything else that we want to? We're coming up here to got I don't know. We probably got 20 minutes left. Any other things here that what and this is all speculation, but based upon your research, we'll go over to you, Kelly. What is this world? What is a new republic going to look like with the quantum banking system and the quantum voting system? We're going to see fairness, I believe, and we're going to see, each individual. It's not going to be ruled by democracy. It's going to be, each person has individual rights that can't be taken away by a group. What's the post current America Incorporated failure, the bankruptcy? What's that world going to look like in your view?
Oh man.
Heavy sigh.
We're not going to be worked as hard as what we've done before. People, I think, are going to be able to do what they want to do. We're not going to be a slave to the system. You know, how many people get up every single day, 8 to 5, go to work, kids are at school, come home, cook dinner, do some cleaning, go to bed, and there's nothing else. That's not how it should be at all. I'm not saying that people aren't going to work. There's going to be jobs. There's going to be all these new technologies released. We're going to be creating them.
Oh my, yeah.
And we're going to be participating in it. There's going to be a new medical system options, which is correct to the human body. And the big one's going to be the humanitarian. There have been a lot of things that have been gone the wrong way for a really long time, and there's no reason for that to continue on in the fashion that it has. It's time to change things. You know, I'm probably going to end up having a big garden in my backyard and bartering with my neighbors, like, here's some veggies, you got something I can have, you know, kind of thing. There's going to be some of that stuff that'll be fun, but I think that we're going to all just have the ability to be happier. No, not as much stress and anxiety and depression and frustration over how we keep trying and failing and trying and failing. The system is set up to help us fail. And it's time for that to come to an end. It's time for us to be able to enjoy our children and enjoy the world and the plants and the animals and just have peace. Peace is the prize. God wins, peace is the prize.
Jason, same question to you.
Okay. You know, can you please repeat
What's
the question?
the world gonna? What's a post America Incorporated bankruptcy? America Incorporated in receivership. What's that going to look like with a new republic, a new leader that's common law, constitutionally based? What do you? How do you think that's going to look?
I could think how it's going to look. I can dream of how it's going to look. It's going to expand way further than that than I could ever dream of, than we could ever think of.
Yeah, we can only speculate so much.
Yeah, because the golden age of technology, the technologies that are about to come out. Imagine a world with no sickness. Imagine a world with nothing but love for one another, for your neighbor, for everyone. You know, everyone helping everyone. You know, just as it would only be equated to a worldwide utopia where everyone is helping everyone. You don't have any enemies. There's no secret. There's no secret societies. Everything's transparent. Everybody's doing what they love. You know, the jobs, yes, they'll be there, but they won't be jobs. You will be doing what your passion is, what your passion for humanity is, because it's like a boomerang. What you'll do is you will be doing what you love, and it'll go to other people, and they'll be, you know, bringing the love back. And it's all going to be about love. And once people realize that, you know, yeah, the TVs, they'll be gone. The mass media, they'll be gone. You know, they've been the crux in all of this.
Yeah, don't get Dave started on that.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but they've been there's been plenty of roots of evil in this. And the one thing we can't get hung up on is that to say, well, Biden's gonna be president, you know, that's all, just give up and everything. No. You have to trust this plan, because this is a divine plan. This is a plan by God.
Well, Dave, I'm sorry, Dave. I want to ask you this. Everybody's like, "Well, Trump's bad." You know, I see the comments. Well, Trump's one of the actors. Trump's part of them. Trump's part of the cabal. I think my opinion is this is much bigger than Donald Trump. When you see 80 million people, or however many showed up, I say 2 million people showed up on Washington, and he's got another 75 or 80 million supporters, however many that is. this is bigger than just it's got beyond just Donald Trump now. I mean, it's a movement of patriots. Yeah, is he our de facto leader, I guess, right now? He's the one taking the arrows. He's the one in the position to be able to do, the high level type stuff. But that makes no difference. There is 75 million patriots that are not putting up with it anymore. It doesn't matter if Donald Trump says I changed my mind or not. There's tens of millions, if not close to 100 million patriots that are not putting up with these shenanigans any longer. Dave vonKleist, what do you think?
Well, this is why I said a while ago, this has got nothing to do with Trump. I mean, yeah, he's a figurehead right now. But let's think like 5 or 10 or 20 years ahead of time. Okay, let's say, okay, Trump, whether or not he serves another 4 years, that's not the point. The point is that this entire movement, this entire real reset is the point. And this is why, this white hat movement, this has been going on for a long, long time, and they had to find the right person to put in place, and it just so happens to be Trump. But once he's gone, what kind of system are we going to be left with? And this is where we're going. That's the prize. It's not whether or not, we're going to have, Trump for another 4 years. We have to think beyond that. What kind of world do we want? What kind of world are we moving towards? Is this another one of, you may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one? Is this going to be, rainbows and unicorns, et cetera, like that? They say if it's too good to be true, it usually is. But once again, I just don't see that it can't happen. The truth always wins. And the light of truth, like I said, the sun has come up, the clouds have parted. All of the subterfuge, the blackmail, the evil, the pure pharmaceutical grade evil that we've been dealing with for generations is now being recognized, and it cannot stand in the light of truth. Kelly, you had something to say?
Yeah, we can't go backwards.
No.
There's no going back to the way that it was. Too many people know, too many people understand. The only way is moving forward.
We might see an actual movement towards something similar to the Venus Project. For those of you who don't know who Jacques Fresco is, check him out. Jacques Fresco, the Venus Project. He was around, gosh, I remember Larry King interviewing him in 1975. That's more similar to what kind of a world I think we're going to have to evolve into. It's going to take some time. But as long as we're dealing in the light and not in the darkness, I don't think we have anything to worry about, really.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Oh, God. It's not just people here in America. A lot of people don't see this because they're still stuck in their mainstream media, but the world has awoke. If you look at the different kinds of parades, if you want to call them, that are pro-Trump, that are happening in Israel, Pakistan, Taiwan, Japan, just everywhere.
Yeah, they're all
I see them
for
all
Trump.
over.
They want to get rid of the cabal too. They see it.
They know. And Trump is the man that's getting us there because the man's got cojones. And Jason knows quite a bit background on Trump. Don't go too deep. But in an understanding of how we got here, who's getting us out, why, and why the timing now is relevant.
Why don't you tell us about that? Why don't you tell us about Trump? Because he's the X factor, Jason. You've done some research. Is it your understanding, or is it from based upon your research, is Trump part of the cabal? Is Trump an inside guy? Is he leading us down the path to a destruction eventually? You're going to pull the rug out from under us. What's your thought based upon your research of Trump? Give us your overall view of the man and what he's gonna do for us, or what he's capable of.
If you want my honest opinion, I would give my life for that man. I truly would. That man is no cabal. That man is no evil. That man has wanted nothing but the greatness for all Americans, for all of the world. And the sad part is that he gets taken off Twitter for asking all the protesters to go home with love in their heart and in peace, and that we will fight on for a new day, and it's always been peace with him. And they remove him from Twitter. Now,
let's talk about that for a second.
Okay.
He's done 3 different video speeches or kind of a populist information that Dan Scavino put out. The man has not conceded. What he's pretty much said is, we're still in this fight. We're not done. This is just the start.
I called Mary Flynn, General Flynn's sister. She's been on my show a couple of times. I called her after Trump gave that speech where he, quote unquote, conceded as they thought he conceded. And I specifically asked her, I said, Mary, what's going on here? She goes, Jim, let me tell you, just to tell you this, don't be negative, be positive, spread positive things around. When the 20th comes around, everything's going to be just fine. That's all I'm going to tell you. When the 20th comes around, everything's going to be just fine. She had just had dinner with General Flynn when I called her when she was at dinner with him, and she called me right when she got finished. And she said to me, everything's going to be fine. Just spread truth, spread love, and don't worry about it. It's all basically it's all going to be taken care of. We're going to continue to fight, and we're not stopping the fight. So she wasn't doom and gloom at all. Like I said, she had just got done having dinner with General Flynn. So I'm optimistic about things. I mean, again, there's not just one data point that we're pulling from, folks. These are multiple different data points from multiple different researchers who have heard from multiple different sources this is going on. So I guess if it's a ruse, they fooled a whole lot of real good patriots and researchers with one fell swoop, and I just don't see that happening.
No, it resonates too much.
Well, we have we got an option here. Do you guys want to take a phone call or two before we close out the show? Do you want to do some phone calls or?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the rule of the phone. Here's the rule of the phone system. You don't have to agree with us. Just be respectful, and don't use foul language. We're not really a foul language type show. Other than that, bombs away. Say what you like. So we're going to bring the first caller in here. They've been holding for quite some time. 50 minutes. So we're going to bring the first caller in here, and then here's the phone number if you want to call. Let me see it here. It's 515-602-9732. 515-602-9732. We got about 20 minutes left to take phone calls. Let's take our first phone call here and see how it goes. Caller, you're live on the air. Please state your first name and where you're calling from. Go ahead, caller. I know you've been on hold a long time, but you may be away from the phone. But caller, can you hear me? Okay, they must have stepped away. We'll put them back on hold again and maybe try to come back to them in a minute. We'll go to our next call here. Caller, you're live on the air. Please state your first name and where you're calling from.
My given name is Ed, and I run new.org and trackers, and it was horrifying. I hope you guys are ready to go to war because this is wartime. Biden and Kamala Harris already announced that they're going to take your guns and they're tearing down the wall. This is not a joke. They are already preparing with the military to come in your house, and not only that, they're spraying the military vehicles under the United Nations flag. You guys got to be paying attention to the real world that's really coming down the pike. I've been doing this shit for 40 years myself, and I've been trying to get people out to file their rights and do all this because by law, if you don't file your rights, you have no rights in this country. Now, with Biden and Harris in it, they are giving this country to the Queen of England. Title 28, 3002. Read it. Your corporation is owned by the British government, by your banks. Your bank, then your city, county. There's no banks in the United States that are owned by Americans. They're all owned by the British. And that's the one thing that people have got to start waking up to, this reality instead of what's going on in their fantasy, because we are not a democracy. We're a public form of government, and we better start acting that way because we noticed in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the liberals have educated the kids that way they don't have rights. Kids grow up and say, well, I don't need to have a right. It's protected. They don't know what it's like to have a right at all because none of their rights have been protected. And the adults today are not even educating their children to participate and protect themselves. That's the horrifying point because nobody knows the rules, regulations, or the Constitution. And don't forget, the Indian treaties run the Constitution. And if you read the laws, In the corporation structure, the native Indian treaties are the law of this land, not the Constitution. The Constitution and the Indian treaties give you your rights. And I do have that, and I'll post it up after the end of the show, and I'll post up a whole bunch of stuff on your channel because I post stuff up on you guys all the time. Like I said, this is Ed Johnson, new.org trackers.
Okay.
And I've been in and out of the system of the government for 40 years. I spent 20 years at the Oregon House and Senate, and I watched them pass these bills to take your guns away, to come in and rape your children and steal your assets. And I spent 20 years of my life doing this. I spent telling people what's going on, and everybody goes, oh, no, that won't happen. Everybody keeps going, that won't happen. Now the reality is going to happen because now you're going to have, if you don't defend yourself, you're going to have the military on your door shooting you for your firearms, and they've already admitted to it.
Okay, well, we appreciate that call. Let's get comments on that. Let's get comments on that. Go ahead, Dave. Dave, what's your thoughts on that?
No, I'm going to pass this one over to Kelly or to Jason. Give it to Jason.
I'll go ahead and take this one. Okay, number one about taking down the wall. Now, as my previous pedigree was that I was an iron worker for 21 years, there is absolutely zero chance that that wall will ever come down. How it was constructed, how it was all welded into place, how it was anchored in 7 feet in the ground, how every piece of iron was filled with concrete and rebar. There is not a chance that that wall ever come down ever again. That wall is there to stay. That is not only a wall, it is also an arc. ARC. That is to help to test the technologies. Number two, as in going to war, we will not be going to war. I understand that everybody wants to ammo up and think that the military is going to come to our doorstep. The military is on our side. The military is on our side because Trump is on our side. Now, if it would have been Hillary we would have already been dead. We wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation. But since President Trump came in and they put this into place of educating Americans, of actually giving them, pointing in the direction of where to look, not giving us the answers, but pointing us in the directions of where to look, and then giving us the platforms to all come together with all of our research and discuss it like we should, like decent human beings, in conveying, ideas, intelligence, and taking it in and not getting angry and knowing that both of us could be right, both of us could be wrong. But at the end of the day, we're all going to learn something.
And the other thing is that Trump has worked way too hard after the last 4 years to flip things and get things in the direction of going the correct way. If you think he didn't realize that they were going to corrupt the election that happened on November 3rd, you got to be kidding me. If you think he didn't have a plan in place to counter that whole situation, go read the executive order, the 13848 that he did in 2018. I have the date, but it's over here. If you think they didn't know it was coming and it wasn't set up, and they didn't set the trap to make them commit the crime, so now they put their hand in the cookie jar and they pulled the cookie out. It's done.
Well, I'm going to, my comment on this is, if you tie the QAnon thing in, whether you believe QAnon or not, and I've said on this show, it really doesn't matter to me, because what it's done is it's created a whole worldwide network of researchers that look into things that they never would have thought about looking into before. So if what this caller said is true, what they've done is, before they've decided to come in and kick the doors down and take us all over, they've enlightened all of us on the crimes, including the crimes that they committed with children, and they have ramped up the Antifa and want to defund police, so everybody goes out and buys firearms and ammunition. Do you think that's really a smart thing to do right before you decide to kick doors down and come in after people? Is get them all armed up and all ammoed up and all educated? That's all I'm saying. It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, with all due respect to the caller and his work, I'm not minimizing it. It just doesn't make logical sense that they would put us all in a position to be aware and be able to defend ourselves before they decided to take us over. I think more they would like to do is poison our food or taint our water so we all got sick so they could, come right in and take us over easily. You guys get what I'm talking about? Do you get where I'm coming from, David?
Oh yeah. I could see that maybe there's another chance for the tables to be turned because you just mentioned making us all sick. With the COVID-19 shutdown, a lot of people have had plenty of time now because a lot of them can't go to work, so they sit at home and they start discovering what investigative journalism is all about. Say, hey, what are you guys doing on the networks? So a lot of people are finding out what the truth is here. And Kelly, did you were chomping at the bit? You were going to say something? No? Oh, okay. I don't know, I lost my track there for a second. I did.
Well, I'll go ahead and I'll throw this in there.
Yeah,
He touched on that he thinks that the CCP and the United Nations are going to be coming in and, barricading down our doors, trying to either shoot us up with vaccines or take us off to a concentration. That's not going to happen. It's just not. I really don't think that we have a lot of things to fear in that because fail safes have already been put in place.
Jason,
go ahead, Jason.
Yes, and also there were within all the Q drops, right? There were videos embedded, Twitter videos, and I noticed one. It was yesterday or the day before about President Trump, and just as if on July 13th of 2018, when he went over to the Queen of England, the Queen of England. And remember when everybody thought that it was all disrespectful when he walked in front of her? What he was doing was he was inspecting his troops. At that point, he took over England. He took England over from them. So
where else did he do it, Jason?
He also did it to China. He did it with Xi, because when you see the video, and it's like a quick, maybe 3-second video, a 3-second clip. But I snapshotted it, and if you see, Xi is exactly 1.5 steps behind President Trump, and he's inspecting his troops. Because President Xi, Putin, President Trump, they're all on the same team. They all want to eliminate this evil. Because the evil that we're dealing with, I don't think people can come to grips with. It's a very, very, very dark evil.
And that's very true. It's really hard to come to grips with that kind of evil when you find out just how bad it's been. And it's a hard pill to swallow.
And it's really sad that they preyed on the children, that they preyed on, they preyed on us with our taxes, with the indoctrination, with the, enslavement, because we can't say that, we can't say we're free people. We're not. They give us the
illusion of freedom.
The illusion of being free, but they always have that tether on us, with the IRS, with the taking of the money and the judicial system.
Well,
I mean, we need to go back to common law, and President Trump and his team, they're doing it right now.
Well, like I brought up before, and people that have listened to my show before are going to say, are you talking about this again? But if you need a license to hunt, a license to fish, a license to pour a driveway in your house, a license to build an addition on your house, a license to cut hair, if you have to get a permit to do all this stuff, are you really free? If you have to get permission from your government to catch a fish that God provided for us, or permission from your government to go out and hunt an animal that was provided for us, when you have to get a permission from the government to do that, you're not free. You can call me anything you want to, call me names, I've been called them all. I don't see it being free of people that have to do that. Jason, you want to comment?
Yes, and what you said about the government, remember this: we do not work for them. They work for us. We are the people. We are the people that put them in. We voted them in under what pretense? It was under false pretense, of course. But now that we've been educated enough, and now that we have enough people educated and we're spreading it out, and people are now seeing it happen. You know, just look up in the skies, you know, at night. At any given night, you'll hear helicopters and you'll hear this, and you'll be like, oh, I wonder what's going on. They're running the operations. They're getting all of the bad guys. Nobody fights at night. You always fight at dark. You always, you know, like Sun Tzu, you always go in the darkness, because you have the element of surprise in dark. They don't. You're equipped in the dark. They're not. You know, this is exactly why President Kennedy created the special forces in the first place, to train us to overthrow a tyrannical government should it happen. And he knew it was going to happen. So
let's do this. We only got a couple of minutes left here for the show. How are we going to bring, and let's talk about solutions here if we can, the last part here. Obviously, we're in a very polarized world right now. Cancel culture is at its zenith. We've had people come on, I think Rush Limbaugh's show a week or two ago, a liberal come on and said, we don't want to negotiate with you guys. We want to kill you. We want you dead. We don't want even to have you in the planet anymore. How are we going to, moving forward, how are we going to bridge that gap? I mean, there's such a chasm between the two sides. Do you think there's going to be some sort of a catalyzing event that's going to bring people together? I know this exposing these people as criminals would help, but you're still going to have the hardliners. They're going to hang on to the very end. How are we going to be able to bring people together? Do you think there's going to be an event that's going to do that? We'll start with you, Dave. We'll move around the room, and then we'll go ahead and close out the show.
Well, I'll try to make this real simple. You know, the conservatives have offered an open hand and not a clenched fist for quite some time. He used to say that on the radio show all the time. We're not looking for confrontation. We just want to communicate. We want to come to terms. We want to come to an understanding. So conservatives have been reaching out to a lot of the liberals and the left quite some time. And it's sort of like, we want to wake you up. We want to bring you, you know, up to speed with what we've been learning and what we've been discovering. So we want to wake you up. That's why the conservatives call them libtards. You know, what's wrong with you? Why won't you wake up? Now, the liberals, they're pissed off at the conservatives for waking them up. And their response is, we want to kill you. I want to go back to sleep. I like sleeping. I like my comfortable little fantasy world that I live in with Hollywood and television and all this other stuff. You know, and I'm not trying to diss all liberals. There's a lot of very intelligent ones out there as well. But we've all got to be reading from the same page. And I hate to see it, you know, because the liberals are shouting down the conservatives at the universities, and they want to shut them down. And it's called hate speech, you know. If anything, if any ideas or concept are presented to the left that doesn't resonate with what they believe, they condemn it. They shout it down. You know, it's like the old saying, you know, truth is hate. The truth is hate to those who hate the truth. And that's sort of where we are. So the hypocrisy of the left it's gotten a level of pathology. I mean, it's insane. So the lines of communication have somehow got to be opened to bridge the gap between the left and the right. And let's look at the law, look at the truth, look at the facts, and everybody can come together over that. But until we have that level of communication happening, it's going to be a hard road to hoe.
Jason, same question to you. How do you think we're going to be able to bridge this gap, this seemingly insurmountable difference that we have on the two sides that are, you know, basically polar opposites?
It's going to be a long road, but there will be events that are coming up shortly that will truly be the Great Awakening. I don't want to get too deep into it because it's a lot of people will not accept it. But the one thing is that what you need to do is you need to go inside of yourself, and you need to understand that everything will be okay. Right? Everybody is here to help you. We're all here to help. If anybody has questions, they're more than welcome to contact me, to contact any of us. You know, we're here for you 24/7. I don't care. I don't sleep as it is. I want to help. And
I don't sleep well.
You know, not at all, actually. It's just, you know, and there's been things that happened in my life that have been confirmation enough that we are on the right path. And once people realize that what this event coming up is, all I could say is you might want to pack an extra pair of pants to work.
That's a good
That's
one.
all
Kelly, what do you
say.
say? What say you, Kelly?
Okay. This is not about Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, whatever you want to be. There is going to be information that will be disclosed that will be undeniable. This isn't about right or left. This is about humanity. This is about compassion. This is about truth, understanding, overcoming it, correcting it, and moving forward. So there's going to be things that are going to come out that are even going to make me get another pair of pants. So, and I've had some stuff, and I've seen some stuff that is really scary. And I know that there's some things that are going to be coming out that are going to be even worse. And we're all going to go through it together. We are here for each other, 100%. You have questions. I'm here to be compassionate because I understand some things to help you understand some things that you may not have had an alternate opinion on or a different kind of outlook on the situation. And that's what we're here to do. We are here to be here compassionately for each other to help each other get through it so we can all come out on the other end.
Well, as we close out the show, we'll go reverse order. Anything, give you about a minute, Kelly, anything you want to say in closing? I know that probably was close to what you just said was what you wanted to say, but I'll give everybody a minute here. We're getting ready to close out the show. Anything you want to say as a parting shot? I guess not really a shot, but a parting word to the folks out there listening, Kelly, before we wind down the program.
It's not easy to find some things, but we've mentioned quite a few things in this program that you could go and go to DuckDuckGo or wherever, somewhere legitimate, and actually pull this information and look it up yourself, read it yourself, make your own determination with your own eyes and your own heart and soul on what resonates with you. The truth will come from within you, and you'll know exactly what you feel at the end of it.
Jason, anything you'd like to say to the folks before we wind down the show?
There's just make sure that you keep a positive outlook on everything. You know, whether or not you approve of President Trump or not, he's doing the right thing for all of us. We've never had a president that has done that for all of us. For the benefit of all of us, he's been transparent to us. He's told us the truth. He's helped us. He's helped minorities. He's helped all of us on a grand scale. He's helped others. He will go down as one of the greatest presidents of all time.
And I just want to touch on that. I'm sorry for opening
Hey, wait,
up again.
you only had a minute here. Hold on a minute. Wait now. Go ahead.
Okay, just remember, Trump is the balance. He has to keep the balance for this whole thing. He's not going to be pull the trigger and arresting people. Somebody else is going to do that. Trump has to keep the balance for all of us.
Right.
Broadcasting legend Dave vonKleist, anything you'd like to say here, closing out, give you the last word before I actually do the official closing of the show. Over to you. Anything you'd like to say?
All I got to say is, folks, it's an open hand, not a clenched fist.
Right on.
Great stuff. All right, folks, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you all tuning in here to the show. I had a lot of viewers today. Thanks so much. If you want to support this broadcast, you can go to northwestsuburbannews.com, northwestsuburbannews.com. And pretty much all the social media platforms, that's what I'm left on. That's what you look for, northwestsuburbannews.com. This show will be put up on Rumble after it's processed. We do appreciate you looking in here, and thanks so much for joining us here on the broadcast. Well, I want to thank all my guests, Kelly, Jason Q, and Dave. It was a great discussion. I think people got a lot out of it. Everybody was kind of wondering what was going on, and we don't have 100% of all the answers, folks. But
90 seconds.
You're talking about people that have done research and are true blue researchers and patriots that want to get the truth out. So we're not going to have 100% of it right, but I think we're pretty close to being spot on with this one. You guys, I appreciate you being here. We just went out of time. Thanks so very much to everyone, all of you. God bless you. God bless all the people out there watching. And tune in next time here to Northwest Suburban News and Critical Disclosure. Until then, this is James White saying bye now.
60 seconds.